Good evening, or good day, I don't know what time it is where you're from. Hello everyone and welcome to a special edition of GameTales. An edition shrouded in the World of Darkness, or GDC as it's come to be known. Hi Stefan, how have you been? Have you risen from the dead?
Hey Unicom, and good morning afternoon to our listeners. I have to semi-apologize for how I look. As opposed to your whole World of Darkness shtick, I have a world of 640 by 480. Because yes, indeed, my Ryzen has risen, which means I can't. Yes, which means I can't use the same webcam I used up until now, because that's on my laptop. It's like, it's included in the laptop. So I borrowed the webcam from a colleague, but apparently it's a rather old one. So for at least for this episode, I think you're stuck with me in this very, I'm in your face. Hello. But yes, as some of you have known, who have been following my channel, yes,
Ryzen.
My Ryzen replacement is actually working. It's been working for several weeks now, and yeah, it feels nice. It feels nice to be able to render 10-minute episodes in 10 minutes as opposed to 50.
I understand the feeling. Oh, how long did I spend all that time rendering videos on the Athlon 64 with conversions of 10 minutes to 1 actual minute? Or even with the Q6600, it was still kind of difficult because whenever I tried to have actual good video quality, it would take like 6 times as long to actually render the video sometimes.
Yes, not to mention the squeaky voice.
Oh yeah, actually that was a measure to get the videos to be shorter.
Yep, and shittier. But anyway,
yeah, it was how should I put this? Initially, I made that because Star Wars: The Force Unleashed ran for some reason like at half frame rate on the first level. So when I made the show about it, I had to speed up my voice, and it sounded funny as hell to me back then because I had a crappy microphone, and the squeakiness sort of compensated for the crappiness of the microphone a bit, and then I just keep using it because it pissed people off. So
yeah, well,
win-win.
Nothing about the content. The content is still good, but just whenever I stumble upon one of your old squeaky voice videos, I'm like, ugh, squeaky voice. Click.
So
GDC. So we were off last week.
Nothing big happened last week, probably, I think.
Yeah, indeed. But sometimes our schedules just don't. Sometimes life happens, and we can't. We try to record this weekly. On occasion, it can happen, but thankfully, this past week, a lot of stuff happened in the gaming industry. A lot of stuff has been announced. Very ardently debated stuff has been announced, and things have been revealed, and we'll have a very interesting discussion following up on today's episode, because while both Unicam and myself, we concluded that the Epic Store is indeed not of the devil. We might have very different views on things that Google has announced. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be interesting.
Yes.
So what should we definitely need to start with GDC, I think, because that's like a lot of stuff came from before, during, and aftermath.
And the subject I think we should start with is one very near and dear to my heart, and that is vampires. Because we are both Romanian, we have much knowledge of vampire lore, of course.
We do.
Yeah. Our parents used to scare us with vampire tales, or at least that Simpsons episode scared the hell out of me. I remember the one where Mr. Burns was a vampire.
I don't know. I've seen many episodes of The Simpsons, but I can't really.
I think it was
that
one of the first 3 Hours of Horror shows they did. And when I saw that thing on, I think it was on Pro's Zebon or something, I was scared to go into the house because we didn't have any lights in the house at night. So I was scared to go in because there could be a vampire there. But anyway.
Could be a vampire, Dr. Burns. Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
Smithers, release one vampire hound.
Yes, indeed. So, Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes,
Paradox.
a super duper cult hit smash favorite, which I have never played, by the way.
Oh, you should. It's Deus Ex with vampires.
I've never played Deus Ex either.
That's all the show we have for you today, people. Goodbye. So, a long time ago, Paradox bought White Wolf, the company that publishes the pen and paper role-playing game, The World of Darkness, which is the one in which the Vampire the Masquerade is set. And for years, they have been saying, okay, we want to make a video game, but we don't know who, with what, yet we don't know how, we don't know what game, we just own it and we want to make a game. And for the past couple of months, they've been teasing something vampire-related. They had a dating app called Tender.
Tender, yeah.
You have some audio crackling on your end.
It's not audio crackling. It's my wife cooking in the background.
Oh, okay. And that was sort of an ARG, alternate reality game that led to the announcement of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. They kept posting pictures, artwork on their Facebook page that looked like it was straight out of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1. Like I could swear you could see the same locations show up there. But no, it's actually a sequel. And it's not set in Santa Monica and Los Angeles. It's set in Seattle. Like same coast, different state up north. And
they could do a Shadowrun crossover.
Oh
now.
Yeah, they own those people too. Oh, that would be amazing. And
I think but in Hong Kong, you actually meet a vampire.
I never got to play Hong Kong all that much.
In Shadowrun Hong Kong, in Shadowrun Hong Kong, you get to meet an actual vampire. So they exist in Shadowrun also. Anyway,
I find it amazing that it's Paradox doing this because of 2 things. They make databases which have graphics engines slapped onto them. That's their shtick. That's the games
Excel
they make.
Spreadsheets?
Yeah,
Excel spreadsheets.
That is what they make. And now they're publishing an RPG with vampires.
Well, honestly speaking, they also made Tyranny. Well, they gave it off to Obsidian. They published Tyranny. So,
but there have been hints that it was possible for them to do this because I keep trying to find the picture, but I can't find it. Their former CEO, former until last year, he's still at the company, he's still doing stuff. Fred Wester kept dressing as a vampire whenever they had their fan gatherings. Like I think the first time he dressed as a vampire was in 2012 or something. Then he kept dressing as a vampire at every one of their gatherings. So it's probably been brewing in his mind. I think he's been seeding the idea to the rest of the company about doing a vampire game. And the thing that really sort of threw me for a loop initially is that when the GOG page of the game showed up, I was reading the news while I was on the toilet in the morning because that's when I have time to read gaming news. It said that it was being produced by their internal studio, by Paradox Development Studio, the people that make the spreadsheets. But turns out, no, it's made by Hardsuit Labs, which they're the makers of the Blacklight series, which I played the first one. It was a multiplayer FPS that seemed kind of neat, but I sort of was under the impression that they shut down because those games were out like a real long time ago and they haven't really made anything since. But turns out they're not. They pitched the idea of the game to Paradox. Like the instant that Paradox announced they had bought the White Wolf, they pitched the game and they've been making it ever since. And
okay, so they've been working on it for quite a while then.
And the important bit, it's being written by the same people that wrote Bloodlines. The people that after they left Troika, they made Double Bear, which made the vampire RPG game. I forgot what it was called. Oh, Dead State. Actually, Dead State was like, I think it was one of the first proposals for like a zombie RPG where, you know, the zombies aren't the villain, they're the disaster. The people are the villain. It was before it was cool, before The Walking Dead came along. And funny thing, I think Paradox actually published a game made by Kerberos, I believe, which was basically an outright quick cash in on that idea. I forget what the name is called, the name of the game, but it was kind of horrible. It was back in the days when Paradox would just publish any small indie thing, even if it was horrible. They just hoped it would be successful, and for the most part, they weren't. But now, they have those people. They're making a game, and it promises to be sort of. It promises to bring everything that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1 brought that was good from it. You know, the atmosphere, the mood, the storytelling. Chris Avalon's there as well, so he's written some bits for the game as well. So it's going to have a really good, awesome story with great characters, great dialogue. But the combat will not suck. They promised us, they specifically said, the combat will be good this time. So
I thought to suck your blood.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of sucking, now whenever you attack somebody to suck their blood, you'll actually take I think it's an aspect of their persona or a bit of an essence of their essence of their soul, if you will, which will augment some of your abilities. For example, if you prey on somebody that's like more, you know, intelligent, like scientist type, you're gonna get a bit smarter for a short time. So you can buff yourself.
Should also get like disadvantages though.
Yeah, I think if you keep
so, like, if you bite an alcoholic,
probably
I imagine that blood ain't the top shelf sort of blood.
The first game had a similar idea where if you would if you drink blood from somebody that was, you know, somebody that had healthcare, you'd recover a lot of your health. But if you munched on some bum, you'd probably drain him dry and kill him before like even a tick went up.
You know what would be super fun? What I would include, especially nowadays. I remember there was I think it was a horror show or a horror anthology I saw once. Anyway, long story short, it's a brothel, and the chicks in the brothel are all vampires. Can you guess what you can guess what they do.
I think I saw that movie.
But there is a funny thing. There's a funny line in one of them because apparently they drank the blood, but they also, I don't know, ate the hearts or some shit like that. And at a certain point, one of the chicks like tastes a bit of a heart or tastes the blood of a dude, and he's like, it's a vegetarian. You take these guys. You take them. So I imagine also if you were to suck the blood of a vegan, you'd be like, it tastes like kale.
Yeah, you'd be obsessed with telling everybody you're a vegan or a vampire. Oh my god, that could break the Masquerade. That could be like a huge disadvantage. So the game is going to be released next year on the 31st of March, unless it gets delayed. I'm hoping if it comes down to releasing a game that is buggy or one that is delayed, they choose delaying it. And also, it's going to have a Season of the Wolf expansion pass, meaning werewolves are probably going to be on the way. You got to fight, you got to have your ass handed to you by one in the previous Bloodlines. You basically just ran away from him until you either killed him by accident or just ran away.
Yeah, I heard that's one of the. I've never played the tabletop, obviously, but I've heard that is one of the characteristics of playing Vampire the Masquerade. That it's as opposed to the D&D we're most used with, or we used to, or that's most well known. Things don't necessarily have to end up with you killing or hitting someone. Sometimes it's usually better just to hide or run the fuck away from encounters. So that makes sense from what I hear about the original, the source material.
And in that season pass, we're gonna have 2 story packs. So I'm guessing it's gonna be minor DLC and then an expansion, like a full-fledged big expansion.
I think you're right when you say they're just they're planning to basically, because I mean, I wouldn't release a vampire game in March. I would release it around Halloween. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's when I would release a vampire game. But they didn't go for that. So I think they know it needs more work, because in order for it to be done. Also, this is one of those situations in which this is close to a Cleveland situation, close to a Grimoire situation, in which the community is so hardcore and has been so present and constant ever since the video game came out, that again, it doesn't really matter. They don't even have to take that marketing into consideration too much, in terms of they don't even have to release it around Halloween in order to get, like, the spike from that bullshit, because the community will buy the game whenever it releases,
Oh,
whether it
absolutely.
releases here or on fucking Mars. So but what they do need to do is to to deliver on the expectations, and that is always, and especially now, incredibly tough to do. But if they've been working on it for a while and they have all those very good writers on it, I think it might just be as close to expectations as possible.
And the game also has one thing in its advantage that the previous one did not. It will not be released at the same time as Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
That game was released at the same time as Half-Life 2 because that was the licensing agreement. You cannot release it before Half-Life 2. Then they just release it at the same time as it, and that ended up so well.
Yeah. Well, so it's great. I'm gonna look forward to seeing more stuff
Oh,
from it.
absolutely.
Like I said, I've never played. I've seen numerous reviews about Vampire the Masquerade. I've read a bunch of them. So I know, I'm aware of the game's reputation and cult following. But yeah, I've never really gotten around to playing it, because I always usually was mentioned that it's super duper buggy, and I was like, I don't.
The community patches fix most issues.
I imagine they would, after how many? I don't know, 15 years
15
or
years
what?
of constant community
Okay.
patches.
So after 15 years, hopefully, yeah. But hey, don't have to do that now necessarily, or maybe I will. Maybe I should do that, and yeah, that might be an interesting video for the channel and for myself to play the game. We'll see. Yeah,
It
I'll
is a
think
game
about
that
it.
I wholeheartedly recommend. Also, I'm curious to see if it'll come out after or before Cyberpunk 2077, because they're both gonna be like superb RPGs, and if they come out
Yeah,
around the same time,
I don't think. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that one. It's a lot of speculation. Gotta be honest. I think CD Projekt Red has a much more active and more numerous community. I think way more people are waiting for Cyberpunk
yeah,
2077
especially
than
because
for.
Cyberpunk has been like teased for half a
And
decade.
also, these guys they're just coming off of Witcher
Yeah,
3's,
yeah.
so it might be a bit different. But I don't really think. I don't know, when the amount of gameplay we saw from Cyberpunk, it seems like the scope of that game might be a bit different than
Yeah,
what
it
I
may
think
be a
Bloodlines.
much bigger game than Bloodlines will be.
Yeah, I think Bloodlines will mostly will focus on the story and the atmosphere. That's kind of what I understand was great about the game, and what's great about the tabletop as well.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that you can do a lot of things, but that you can role play, and there's all of these politics and vampire
Yep.
houses and weird bullshit like that. So I think that's where I
But
think they will be addressing. I mean, obviously, in the Venn diagrams of people waiting for Cyberpunk 2077 and the Bloodlines, there's obviously an overlap there.
there will be.
But I think there is way more people who are interested in the two individual things than that are in the common. So I don't think they're gonna. Uh, e- uh, I don't think they're going to cannibalize each other.
Hopefully not, because I want to be able to enjoy both these games at my own pace and not have to like scatter between them.
Obviously,
spread myself too thin.
I don't think so. 2077 is definitely not coming out this year. That's for sure. Maybe next year.
I think I have a hunch it'll be out next year in the fall, like with the release of the new console generation.
Maybe they're going for that. I don't know. We do not know. We'll see.
So speaking of
which might be the last console generation,
because we have something new, something interesting, something that is probably going to be quite important in the next couple of years. And let's see where I actually put that. Oh yeah, here it is. Google jumps into streaming with Google Stadia streaming service coming this year.
I think it's Stadia.
Stadia.
Yeah, we would know.
It comes from Stadia. It comes from Stadium, so I'm not sure.
But I think it's Stadia. Anywho, now I like to generally take the skeptics approach when it comes to Google announcing anything, because if you think about it, this isn't the first time they've announced a big thing.
They announced Google Plus, and now they're shutting it down.
And then a couple of years later, they're gonna cut their losses. There are a couple of things that make this maybe a bit more, in the sense that I think Stadia they have like a 5-year plan for Stadia, and I think they already have money put aside for it, for investments.
They also have a first-party studio that will make games specifically for it.
I read that they plan on investing $13 billion in infrastructure in order around the next couple of years or next year in order to make it happen. My problem with Stadia is not necessarily my problem. The issues I have with it is, first of all, internet. It's not like this is the only game streaming service out there. There has been other people who tried it.
Yeah, most of them failed and were bought out by Sony.
Now, truth is, most of them aren't Google also. I mean, if any two entities can make this happen, I think it's Google or Amazon. I think these are the only two entities that have not only the technical know-how, but also it's like nigh impossible to understand resources and financial power to actually get it done. But as it stands now, they said Stadia should be able to stream like 4K 60 FPS.
Yeah, at launch.
On a 3 megabyte bandwidth.
So that's 25 megabits. So
25 megabits. Yeah,
I think that's considered broadband in the US.
This is the thing about the US. So I read a bit into it, and apparently I'm not sure if it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 internet users in the US actually have 25 megabits per second.
Some of them are still on dial-up.
So that right there, I'm not sure if it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. Either way, that's a very small percentage of internet users who could technically or theoretically use Stadia. And again, this is what Google says. We don't really until we actually see it in the wild.
They actually have the stream test that they launched it last year. You can play Assassin's Creed Origins through the Game Stream project, and that functioned well enough. Like I think it went down to 15 megabits a second if you're playing at 720p, which is if you're playing it on a phone, that's actually okay, or if you're playing on a smaller screen. But they've had some issues with latency. I think it went all the way up to 100 milliseconds, which, well, for games that don't require a lot of precision or a lot of accuracy, that's actually quite fine. But for other games, not so much.
Exactly. then there's there's obviously the basically internet availability. There will always be the input lag issue,
Yep.
which they're saying their encoders are really good, and they're constantly working on those to minimize input lag.
I kind of believe him because Google makes its own codec. It's got the VP9 coding, or the next one that's going to come along.
Yes, I know. So again, this goes back to what I said. If there is anyone capable of actually making this shit happen, it's gonna be Google. But this isn't gonna catch on initially.
Probably not.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not the only company doing this. Phil Spencer, the boss of Xbox Games, has said that they're excited about the announcement that Google made, and that it only emboldened them to work harder on their own announcement at E3. So
Yeah.
there's been the rumor for quite some time that Microsoft is preparing a diskless version of the Xbox. And the current gen, like, it's just going to be for downloading games.
Yeah.
And the next gen may have a lower powered Xbox device that is for streaming video games. So they're heading in that direction. And Sony has had the PlayStation Now program running for years. I haven't really subscribed to it because it doesn't have any Metal Gear games on it. If it had, I would probably try it, but since it doesn't, I don't really have much interest. But it's
it promises. I don't want to say it promises because it's kind of dubious. It has the potential. It has the potential to create a new, basically to create a new paradigm in terms of gaming.
Yeah, being the Netflix of games, basically.
Pretty much. And you see, but the thing is, once you set it up, once you get the technology polished enough, then competition will start up, because this is what's happening to Netflix now. For a long while, Netflix, they were doing this really new, really innovative stuff, and they basically developed the technology. Now that it's already done, it's basically plug and play, more or less. All the studios are starting up their own stuff.
Yep, this is gonna make its own, and it's just gonna remove.
Yes, once Disney makes its own, then that's gonna be a lot. Granted, this is why Netflix been investing so much in their own productions, which a lot of them are fucking awesome. But this is something that will most likely happen to if Stadia is successful.
Yeah.
But again, this is gonna be like years. We're talking about years of development and improvement of internet, broadband access, and that sort of stuff. I read an interview. I read a Polygon interview with the guy who made the presentation, I believe. And besides the fact that whoever was,
I think he used to work at Sony back in the day. Phil Harrison, I think his name is.
Besides the fact that whoever was doing the interviewing lost any sort of credibility from my perspective, because the guy or girl, I don't know, I think most likely a dude, asked him, and what about the internet connectivity? I mean, it's all good and here in the Bay Area, but what if you're in New Delhi or Romania?
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't know shit about what the fuck he's talking about.
It's Polygon. They know crap about a lot of things.
But I did enjoy the fact that the guy answering actually said, well, actually, I got an email from someone in Romania who said, you might want to build a data center here because our internet is great.
And Phil with trust. So Phil Harrison, thumbs up, Polygon.
So yeah, I was like, okay, this guy, the Google guy, obviously knows what the fuck's going on, and this Polygon guy has fucking clue.
That's the first third world country that came to mind, I guess.
Apparently. We're behind on everything else.
We have roads that look like they were bombed last year from, like, a Beat 72 bomber, but we have internet so fast it'll make your head spin.
And super affordable, and you'll find free Wi-Fi at every bodega that you will stop at any or shop or anyway.
So come to Romania if you want to run a really big botnet.
Pretty much, yeah. So the guy was talking, and the sense I got from him is that they're actually expecting to run at a loss for a long time.
Well, technically, YouTube already does that, so they're making money hand over fist in other places, so it's okay for them.
I'm just talking about the Stadia idea.
Yeah.
He said that a lot of it is predicated on advancements and improvement in infrastructure that is going to happen in the future. Stuff like 5G and better access to internet and that sort of stuff. So they are aware that there will be growing pains and that sort of stuff, and that's good to see. That's good to see even from a big company such as Google, who should know these things anyway. It's good to see that they're aware of it and that there will be there's going to be some obstacles in making this work. I'm still dubious about it. I mean,
there's one thing they haven't actually said yet. How are you going to pay for it, and exactly in what quantity? Is it monthly? Is it per game basis? Do you own the game? Do you rent it? Do you lease it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not clear.
There's a bunch of details that we aren't privy to. We can assume it will actually be a subscription service, kind of like Netflix, exactly,
or PlayStation Now, I guess.
And maybe it will be like a tiered subscription service, like basic, you get X number of games
at 720p or 1080p,
something like that, and then there's another one in which you can get them at 4K or over, and you get the newest releases or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Or do you just rent the games? Do you then buy the games? Because then it's gonna. I think you'll still have to buy the games, because otherwise it will kind of decimate the gaming industry in general.
Well, I think this is more of a means to murder GameStop and its dubious game rental system or game return system, where you would buy a game, return it for half what you paid for it, and they'll sell it off at full price. Or game rental, is it?
It's very possible.
Microsoft tried that when they released the Xbox One, the initial Xbone, but they sort of phrased it in a way that, you think that you own the game? No, fuckers, we own you. We have a camera connected to the NSA that's always watching you. Yes, it'll be always online. Deal with it. That's basically how they phrased it back then. It was right when Snowden said that, these guys helped the US government spy on you. So,
yeah.
And the good thing is that you don't have to buy hardware up front with Stadia, like you had to do with the Xbox One. The only thing you can buy is a controller that is connected via Wi-Fi to their servers, not to the device that you're actually playing the game on. So it's going to have direct connection to the game itself. So you can move it from, like I can move it from my TV to my phone to my PC, with just playing the same game without actually pairing the gamepad to any of the devices, which is going to be cool. Also, it has built-in Google Assistant for some reason. I don't know why. There were some speculations that you could activate walkthroughs, like pop up a hint in case you get stuck. And you can also instantly stream to YouTube, like without a performance hit, because everything is being handled by a server which is running an unspecified x86 CPU. With hyper-threading, so it's probably an Intel CPU, and it's also running a Radeon video card, or more than one, I guess. It's probably not Navi. Yes. I'm not sure if it's Navi, if they already have it running. It could be Navi further along the line. But importantly, they can upgrade this. They can always constantly upgrade this hardware. So if you've been itching to play something in super high resolution, very high detail with ray tracing, you could probably do it. They showed a demo of what you can do with multiple video cards of the the video cards they have in the Stadia racks chained together, they have really amazing fluid simulation, like physical simulation, which you can do that you just can't do on a normal system right now. Like even if you have like a super high-end system, nobody's going to make a game that'll do just that for your system, because there's like, I don't know, 1,000 people maybe in the world that have a system that can handle something like that, I guess.
And yeah, that's true. So it could also change development to a certain degree.
Oh, and development-wise, you can either get a server from like buy or rent a server from Google. Like they'll ship you a system that is basically the exact same spec as a server, or you can just develop on their servers, like directly at them, with none of the cost of buying the hardware, which is an amazing thing.
They are they did think about a lot of this stuff. It just remains to be seen how well the implementation will actually be. That's yeah. And like you said, we don't know how much it's gonna cost, how exactly is it gonna be made. The integrated streaming thing, I imagine, will be a great attraction to a lot of people who stream gaming.
Oh, and
Yep, you go.
Related to that, you will have the ability to create a save state that you can then share with other people, like even through your stream. So they're gonna
kind of odd, but
yeah,
sure.
they're gonna add basically emulator save states to every game. So this could actually make Dark Souls fun for me. I like Dark Souls 3, but I kind of wish it had a quick save option so I can not just go back to the bonfire and then retread.
From what I understand, that new one with the samurai is kind of interesting also.
Yeah, Shadows Die Twice.
Shadows Die Twice.
I haven't played it yet. I'm probably going to play it like in 2-3 years when it's in Humble Bundle, like at $15 or something, because that's why.
$15, little man. Which again, streaming games, I think it's something that we should have done earlier and much more of, but it's definitely not our shtick.
Well, I tried to do it, but I did it at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, so nobody watched it.
That is kind of a difficult niche time, I think.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's gonna Stadia. I think it's gonna eat into consoles.
Oh, absolutely.
And the console market first.
Absolutely, because it has a very, very important characteristic in common with consoles: no mod support. Because I'm not sure if you could do mod support with something like that, unless they do it official, like through Paradox has their application, their program, their modding program. If they can implement something like that into Stadia, maybe it'll have like a future for somebody like me that wants to change things in the games because they don't like the defaults.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking about, but I think it might actually mostly eat into the console gamer market way earlier than it would eat into computer gaming. Because the thing is, most of us who prefer gaming on computers, we tend to also use the computers for other shit. Whether it's if it's like us who needed to edit videos and audio, or whether it's people who deal with maybe you have like a 3D printer and you use a 3D modeling program.
Or maybe you want to be able to do this. Ooh.
Or that.
This would have been a lot more nifty. Yeah, I think I'm gonna turn off black and white because we're past the World of Darkness stage.
Yeah, you kind of destroyed the Whoa, still dark. What the? Oh, you have no lights on. Okay. Slightly better. Hey, there you go. That looks like something from Apex Legends, by the way. It looks like like when you scroll through inventories through death crates. But yes, Stadia in general, it's promising, but we need to see more details about it. Yeah. And we need to see it in action, and we need to see it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Because another reason why Netflix was and still is a decent deal is because it's not expensive.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have to wait and see. But I'm not really. I'm in no danger of switching from my computer to just the Stadia because, like I said, we use the computers for many other things. Because otherwise, I would probably be a console gamer. But I'm not one of those either. Because again, I like computers.
Imagine if you could rent the state, like if in the monthly subscription to Stadia, you could actually access the system as a virtual PC and do editing on it. Because that thing would just be a powerhouse, like in terms of storage, and you would have unlimited storage on it.
Pretty much, but I don't think that they'll be willing to like open the floodgates
Yeah, probably not.
for that sort of stuff just yet, maybe because then they'd get into issues with hardware manufacturers.
I guess, yeah. One thing in terms of storage, that actually unlocks the ability to basically make games that are independent of storage requirements. Because we're getting to very, very big video games. Like Rainbow Six Siege has almost 100 gigabytes right now. I think Star Citizen is way past 100, and it's not even done yet. We are getting to the range on which you can no longer ship them on discs properly.
Well, let's not exaggerate. These are just a couple like of super duper high end AAA games. Like most of the games I play
Yeah, indie
are
ones smaller. Yeah, but
are
what was the? There was just a game released. I think it was Anthem. Maybe not Anthem. There was a recent game released on Xbox One and on PlayStation. The disc version for the PlayStation basically contained nothing because you had to install a 90 gigabyte patch day one, and the install size of the game is 9 gigabytes. On the Xbox One, you just had download 50, so there's that. Uh,
Mhm.
you can make games that are a lot bigger than that by not just not caring what you store on the system because the system
That's true.
just streams content as needed.
That's true, and it's possible in the future some of them will develop just for Stadia because of that particular reason, especially.
They're already doing it because they do have a first party studio
Yeah,
that
they
is
did say that
run by
they
Jade Raymond, who what's with the Assassin's Creed back in the day at Ubisoft and headed up a studio at Electronic Arts. And Electronic Arts thought, you know what, this Star Wars thing, maybe people would enjoy playing it. Better not do that. Better not. Loot boxes. I imagine that's how the discussion went.
Oh, apropos of Star Wars, though, we also found
Yeah,
out
yeah,
that Disney is resurrecting Lucas Games,
absolutely. Lucasfilm Games.
Lucasfilm Games.
That,
So,
the old name they used to have back before Monkey Island. I think I can't remember when they started using it. It was they used the name when they made Maniac Mansion, and I think when they made Zack McCracken, and then they switched to Lucasfilm Game to Lucas Arts.
either way, good news for those of us who are old school fans, especially of the adventure games. I doubt they'll be doing the adventure games very much.
I really hope they will. They probably won't,
I
but I hope
hope
they will.
I hope I'm in that same boat. However, Double Fine has been doing a great job of remastering the old ones, so that's cool. I don't know if they're gonna do anything new, although they could, because Indiana Jones hasn't had a proper
Yeah.
adventure game or a game
I
in a while.
remember back in the day when LucasArts announced that it had licensed the digital molecular matter technology and they were going to use it for The Force Unleashed. They also showed a demo of the new Indiana Jones game they were going to use that technology for. They showed Indy punching a guy through a wooden fence. That fence just broke with the most realistic sense of a fence breaking you've ever seen in your life. And that game never came out. They launched a Wii version that was basically nothing like that. And it went
Well,
poof.
with just like I said, with Stadia, you can have that
Yeah.
sort of
Oh,
realistic
yeah.
material crumpling and
You could do
destruction.
it with
So
a fidelity that even without DMM, you can just brute force it.
exactly, but you shouldn't. But you can. But you shouldn't. That would
But
be
you
a big
could.
one. Yes. Uh, so whilst we're hoping adventure games, most likely they're gonna dip into Star Wars
Yeah,
and gonna
probably.
make some Star Wars something.
Like,
Most likely, I'm thinking they're gonna make an MMO.
another one?
I think so. I don't know if they're satisfied with EA. I don't think they want EA to do anything with Star Wars for a long time after their licenses
Yeah.
expires. I think they're still. eh, has anyone been talking about that last Battlefront game since the last scandal?
No, currently
No, exactly.
the only thing that's actually making money hand over fist right now in Star Wars games is the mobile game, which is it's a game made to bleed people dry of money. It's a perpetual money making machine, but it's engaging to some people that are really want to play a Star Wars game. But that's the only one they have. That's the only one they made. It's a game where you have to grind things until the end of time, and then hopefully have fun.
Mm.
But it's making money.
Yeah. So in general, that's good news. It usually means this basically means that the IPs, the old IPs from LucasArts games, are back in play.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that maybe they're going to reach out to Ron Gilbert and say, "Hey, run, buddy, come here, run, buddy. How you
I don't
been,
know.
Ron? Come on,
I don't know about that, but
run,
possible.
run. I've got 3 words for you, Ron. Monkey
So much
Island
money.
3.
No,
You g-
so much money. Those are the 3 words because they could pay him whatever.
Monkey Island 3, Ron. You're gonna make your Monkey Island 3, the one you always wanted, Ron. Come on, Ron.
Monkey
Come on.
he could just make Monkey Island reboot. So that and just make that just like Kevin Smith is doing James Silent Bob reboot now.
Ooh,
He's filming it right now. That's what it's called. It's called James Silent Bob reboot, which
cool.
basically is gonna be a reboot of
Of
James Silent Bob Strike Back
really?
because in the story they want to reboot the movie that they were trying to stop in James Silent Bob. It's a very
Oh
meta
my,
sort of
that's
thing.
actually an amazing idea.
Yes, yes, and it's gonna be. I've been because I follow him. I'm a big fan of his, and I follow him on Instagram and whatnot. And he's been posting pictures of what's been going on. And basically, everyone that's ever been in any of his movies shows up in this one. From uh, from Dawson's Creek, and the pie fucker to the 2 kids who buy weed off of him at the beginning at the beginning of Jay Silent Bob with $15, little man. Put that shit in my. Everyone shows back up, so it's gonna be fun. So Ron Gilbert could actually do a secret, the re-secret of Re-Monkey, Re-Island,
Well,
something like that.
his game would have to be a reboot of the third game because after the second game he didn't have any involvement with them, and he said that his story like just went on a different path than the one that they chose for the other games.
Yeah, that's all.
So only the first two would be canon.
Definitely. So they I think we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this, but there's definite potential in Monkey Island as a comedy series
Oh yeah,
of like movies or TV show or that sort of stuff.
Pirates of the
Because
Caribbean.
now, exactly,
Yeah,
because now it's
there was a movie.
mainly
There was
part
a
of
movie
Disney.
treatment for Monkey Island that sort of
Yeah, I
kind of
think I
sort of
remember about
a
that.
bit got turned into Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's possible, but I think Guybrush would be funnier than Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just have this.
more sober
Depends.
as well.
Yeah, because he's just naturally dumb.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, that was another cool announcement. So we went through Stadia. I think we need to
We have to
talk.
address that they are releasing a sequel, a prequel actually, to Project Iggy.
Yes, in our neck of the woods, we would generally call it Project Iggy or Iggy,
Mhm.
and I like to describe it as the sequel no one asked for a game some people played. Like what was it? Was it 20 years ago? When was the first
19
one?
years ago.
Close enough.
It had
But
a
still
sequel
close
like in
enough.
2002 or 2003.
What?
And yeah, there was a Project EG2 called Project Ico. Because, well, this is a bit of a joke. IGI comes from I'm going in. So
Yes.
I kept saying to people that the sequel is named Project Ico, I'm coming out.
Okay.
It's actually named something else. That was a joke.
But
Because there
yeah,
was a
okay.
Project Ico studio that made Ico.
Yeah, but I was like, could have been. So yeah, I don't know if we need another one of these games. I mean, I played it. It was fun back then because you could jump and shoot a sniper rifle,
Mhm.
which again, but I don't know if there's enough nostalgia or enough of a community there to support
Well,
Project Iki 2.
it's probably gonna be like focused on getting their sales like in this area of the world, like Eastern Europe, Russia, because that's where it was popular.
I imagine, yeah.
Also, they have until the year 2021, because I think that's when they announced the release date for. It's not coming out anytime soon. They have a feedback submission thing on their website in which they want to ask people what they want to be in the game.
Oh yeah, what they basically ask for game mechanic ideas. Sure, that's always a good sign. So yeah, Project Iggy 2, the sequel to the game no one gives a shit about.
So I think maybe FunLab should make a sequel to that Secret Service game they made like around the same time that was kind of horrible. FunLab's their main studio. They made a Secret Service game, shooter FPS, around 2000 something. It's kind of bunk, like it was a super low budget Activision title. It was... it's that kind of game.
No one lives forever could get.
God, I
could
wish
get
that thing would get a sequel or a reboot or something.
That actually has a slightly larger community than Project Iggy.
Sadly, the rights for that one are still tied up. I think maybe there's a chance that what their name is, Night have made some progress, because there was I think there was an interview at NoClip, Daniel Dyer's channel, and with Night and I think there was a screen with something relating to No One Lives Forever in the background. No, it was on GOG. It was on GOG. It was their GOG, show. And there was, I think there was a bit of No One Lives Forever, like in the background. So hopefully the rights will be settled, because Kate Archer needs a comeback. Kate Archer was awesome.
If there's a great time for a strong female lead in a game, it would be kind of time for that.
Yeah.
System Shock 3.
Oh yeah, System Shock 3 got a trailer. It looks nice, and at the same time, how should I put this? The studio making it, Other Side Entertainment, is made from people that created System Shock, created Ultima Underworld, like Warren Spector, legends of the video games industry, and they released last year Underworld Ascendant, which was a spiritual sequel to Ultima Underworld. You know, the game that sort of started the immersive sim thing, is responsible for a lot of games existing, and it was kind of horrible. Like, people have said it is one of the worst games ever made. So
yeah, okay, that's not good.
Tempering expectations a bit.
It looked so nice in the trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard the same shit about that. And now let's return to one of our more favorite subjects of discussions recently, the Epic Store.
Oh yes, things went epic on the Epic Store.
And so much shit has happened. There's been so much stuff relating to the Epic Store. First of all, was the thing that they're spying, which I think we should expect it by now, but whatever.
The thing is, they're not really spying any more than Steam does. There was an outcry a couple of years ago where it was discovered that Steam was collecting data from you, and Gaben came out and said, "I don't care what porn you watch." That was his statement on the fact, and people were okay with it because the data is anonymized. It's used for their internal metrics. It's not something that's going to be used to bombard you with ads. It's something else.
Yeah, Sure.
And
Uh, Related to this, sorry, related to this, the Civilization developers actually came out and said what they use the information that they track when you play games. So that was nice because usually we don't know, like
well, yeah,
developers.
there was that red shell thing that was even worse than what Steam or Epic did. It was a middleware thing that a lot of games were using to collect data.
Mm. But besides that, which again is kind of shouldn't necessarily be expected. We shouldn't be very blasé about it, but yeah, as long as you use any sort of online thing with some account that's not VPN through 40 100 servers, yeah, no, someone somewhere knows that what the fuck you're doing. Um, More importantly, Outer Worlds will be an Epic Store exclusive
For 1 year.
for 1 year. Apparently, this is the starter contract for Epic, for the Epic Store. From what we've been, so there's this earlier, and we didn't talk about this because we didn't have a show last week. Phoenix Point also
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that's gonna go to the store, and it created a bit of a kerfuffle because it was crowdfunded
And they promised GOG and Steam keys in the crowdfunding campaign, which is...
yeah, so that's a bit of a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
There, but I can only
on the
imagine.
plus side, they did say that they're going to give the first year of DLC free to everybody that bought the game. So at
Yeah,
least they're
so that's
trying
good.
to dig themselves out of the hole.
Exactly. You can only one can only consider one should only think about that the offer from Epic should probably was really much too high to say no to if
Mhm.
they consciously decided to have to deal with all of the shit that they've been
Yeah,
dealing with.
I think they said that it allowed them to expand the game. Like, I don't say that in the sense that it allowed them to increase the scope, but after the release, that money will let them make more content for it, like post-release.
Yes, which as a developer, as a business, you kind of want to be in business for as long as possible, and making sure that you have financing to be able to pay your people for the following year or a couple of years. That's that is so precious. You can't really buy that. That's
Yep.
worth more than its value, than its weight in gold, or than its value in actual currency.
But I
So
know,
from a business standpoint, I understand
yeah.
why.
I also understand why people would be upset about this, because if they were promised
Yes.
the GOG key, yeah, I would want. They were still gonna get them, but they're gonna get them a year later. But still,
Yeah, I know.
it is kind
No,
of it's kind of like a kick in the balls. It's a tender love kick. It's a kick in the balls made with tender love, but it's still a kick in the balls.
I know. In this case, I understand where the animosity is coming from, especially from the people.
On the bright
who,
side, you did mention that the developer is interested in being in business as long as possible. And
Yeah.
they're in business by having an exclusivity with a certain store that doesn't block you from actually using playing the game as you would want to, when you eventually will get it on GOG as well. And it won't have loot boxes shoved into it to make up the money they would have needed otherwise. So there's
Yeah.
that. It's not a great model, the exclusivity model, but it's not loot boxes. So at least there's that. At least.
It's not. No, they are, and I'm pretty sure this exclusivity model. I mean, we've talked about this last time as well. I think it's just gonna be something that the Epic Store does for a limited amount of
Yeah,
time.
I think Tim mentioned that in an interview that I had a link somewhere up there. I think also that we may see games with the lower prices on the Epic Store, because, well, the developers get charged less, so they have the freedom to set their own prices.
Yes, and then they could basically just all of the extra money they make, or the savings they make when compared to if they were to release on Steam, then they can pass that off. That savings, they can pass it off to us, to the buyers, which means they can kind of lower the prices, which would then increase the number of sales, which basically everyone wins.
Yeah,
In that particular, more of an ideal sort of setup.
that would be useful.
But now,
Continue, please.
yeah. And now we can talk a bit about actual sales on the Epic Store,
Yeah.
because we now know how many copies Metro Exodus sold on the Epic Store, despite all of the hullabaloo that came before it. How many copies did it actually sell in comparison to Last Light?
2.5 times as many in the first week. But, and there's a but here.
Okay.
Metro Exodus is released in a time and place where the Metro series is a lot more popular than it was back then, and the fervor around it is a lot higher. It's a lot more marketing hype. It was well promoted, so there was a lot more interest for it. But at the same time, the console version of Metro sold only 1.5x as much as the previous game, so there is a bit of a difference there. It's sort of like an inverse of what happened with the Division, because when the Division was launched exclusively on the, was also on Uplay, when it was launched on the Epic Store, it led to an increase, like a massive increase of the Uplay version, whereas here it sort of went the other way.
As far as I'm concerned, this kind of proves the fact that if you were gonna pay money for the game, it didn't really matter where the game was. Oh, yeah, as far as a computer player is concerned.
And very important thing, diehard fans of the Metro series already bought it on Steam on pre-order. So those don't get factored into this. That's on top of those guys.
But they got I think they could get an Epic Store key, right?
I'm not sure. They got it on Steam, so they play it on Steam right now. Everybody that pre-ordered it on Steam has it on Steam. They could preload it on Steam. They're still using it on Steam. I'm not sure if they also got an Epic Store key. If those guys are factored into this, then that 2.5x isn't really 2.5x. But if they're not, then it's the Steam sales plus the Epic sales there. That game is successful, which is a good thing, in spite of Deep Silver being kind of dickbags. 4A Games really deserves a win. Like 4A Games had horror stories of the development of the first game. I remember reading a interview with the former CEO of THQ. I think it was CEO. He said that he went to visit them when they were making Metro, and he found them in a building that had broken windows. There were some armed chickens at the door, like just in one of the apartments below them. They didn't have power most of the time. They didn't have chairs. He wanted to bring them chairs. And don't import chairs. They're gonna steal them at the customs office. They work their ass off, and they deserve a win. I'm glad they're getting it.
And they also deserve the extra 18% that they're getting from the Epic Store compared to what they would have gotten from the Steam Store.
Well, they would have gotten more on Steam if they sold over 10 million.
Yeah, sure, but again, this up until that threshold, they're still making way more than they would have.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Another sort of interesting thing, again related. So yeah, the Outer Worlds. It's a game that both of us are really super looking forward to.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. We're gonna have. So Outer Worlds is coming out this year, right?
I wouldn't
launch. It's 2019. There's no firm release date, but it's set for 2019. So we're gonna have
surprisingly enough,
three RPGs made by awesome people coming in the very near future: The Outer Worlds, Cyberpunk, Vampire the Masquerade 2. It's gonna be, and maybe System Shock 3 if it turns out to be actually good.
I don't know if it's gonna be that soon, System Shock, to be honest.
Well, yeah, maybe 2021. After Cyberpunk, I guess.
Yeah, that really won't work.
Could be a succession of amazing RPGs, and it's a wonderful time to love RPGs again.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, it is. The Outer Worlds does not disappoint.
Oh, I hope it doesn't. Oh, and there's Dying Light 2 as well, which I haven't seen it become an Epic exclusive yet, but I think it may become, because it's kind of that kind of game that could use the attention. Because Dying Light was an awesome game with a crappy story, and Dying Light 2 is going to be an awesome game with a story written by Chris Avalon.
Okay, then that is something. I don't know. I think I'm just really okay. I'm just really okay with the Outer Worlds being an Epic Store exclusive for that first year, because I really don't care where I get the game from. To be honest,
Well,
I
yeah,
if I want to play the
this
game.
is very important. Outer Worlds uses the Unreal 4 engine, so they get an even bigger cut technically because
Mhm.
they don't have to pay a licensing fee for the engine.
Which is that much better for Obsidian. Granted,
Well,
they're gonna be part of Microsoft.
technically it's for Take Two because they're publishing it, and it's part of Microsoft. It's a multi-layer funnel of fish quagmire thing. A funnel of fish. That's a
Funnel of fish.
yeah. It's a
Like a barrel.
barrel of fish, but now
Yeah.
now it's a funnel of fish that's funneling money
Okay.
somewhere, and the fish take it and eat
Funneling
it.
green fish.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is that apparently 40% of Epic Games Store users don't have Steam,
Yeah, that's kind of to be
or
expected because
don't use it regularly.
it's kind of expected.
A lot of them play just Fortnite.
Steam is not super popular outside of like the US and Europe. And if a lot of people like in China want to play Fortnite, they're not going to have Steam. Or it was one of the Linus's editors, I forget his name. When he hired him, he had no idea what Steam was. He played League of Legends, people loved it. Had never used Steam before, no clue what it was, and he was a game like he played games nonstop.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting indeed.
He was, I think it was from somewhere in Southeast Asia. I can't exactly remember what country it was from. But anyway, Steam was not that big there, but Fortnite is a global, big, gigantic sensation.
Yeah. And also, Epic also said that they will be sponsoring, they'll be investing like $100 million in devs.
Yeah, it's the Epic Mega Grants promotion. It's a fun name because Epic's name used to be Epic Mega Games back in the day when they made when they made the pinball games, the Epic Fantasy Pinball thing.
It's a nice sendback. And Ubisoft has extended its partnership with Epic.
Yeah, they're gonna release another game there apart from the Division 2. We don't know what game it's gonna be. Probably.
I've actually been hearing better things about the Division 2 than about the Division 1.
Yeah, apparently it's not as horrible. I still don't want to touch it because
Me neither. I'm just saying.
they said the same thing about the Crew 2, and I went into the Crew 2 with so much hope that they fixed everything, and they didn't.
You and your fucking
They
card games.
only fixed one thing. They removed fast travel because fast travel in a game about racing, about driving a car that can go 400 kilometers an hour was stupid. You could load the car onto a plane or somehow tied to a bus. I don't know exactly how it worked, and yet it still had fast travel. Like you could just explore the map by going to the map, moving with fast travel until you uncovered everything. That made no sense. Why have it? There was no reason. Well, hopefully the Division 2 is better.
We'll see about that. I don't know. I'm not gonna play it, but
Me either.
sure.
Even if they force me to do a review of it on my other day job, I'm probably gonna say no.
You can do something. You can play something less Division-y.
Yeah, sort of kind of reviewed Apex. So it's not, hey, by the way, there was supposed to be an Apex video on our channel like last week, but I think Raul forgot about it.
You might need to talk to him about that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
if he
you did
hasn't
say-
torn down his building yet, I should probably remind him. He's in the middle of
Yes.
remodeling, and
you should do that.
he's been doing it for a month. The poor man.
Oh yeah, no. Whenever it comes to that, it's like it almost never. You feel it never ends when it
Yeah.
comes to building anything.
And you know what else never ended? The wait of seeing another Quantic Dream game on PC. Quantic Dream, the studio French people that apparently have a motion capture studio and they really want people to know that and also probably have access to some narcotics. They have renounced their a couple of months ago. They renounced their exclusivity to the Sony platform because they got an investment from I think it may have been Tencent or a Wii game or some other Chinese company. And because of that, they could now publish their games on any other platform. And they're coming to PC. Detroit Become Human, which is their latest game, is going to come to PC. Beyond Two Souls, which is the game that nobody really liked, but it has Willem Dafoe in it. And Heavy Rain, the classic Heavy Rain, the PlayStation 3 game, big seller Heavy Rain, is coming to PC via the Epic Store.
And even when we finish talking about the Epic Store, we don't finish talking about the Epic Store.
It's that epic.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know what to say about that one. It's kind of bad, but we're gonna work with it. So how about we end this episode of GameTales with you talking about some tech, because there's been some tech announcements also.
Yeah, there's been some tech.
Some weird tech shit, as far as I'm concerned. So you can go for it.
You know virtual reality, right? VR goggles, Oculus Rifts.
I am aware.
Well, Oculus announced the Oculus Rift S, which is sort of an intermediary between the first and second gen of the Oculus Rift. Thing is, it's not made by Oculus, it's made by Lenovo. So
Lenovo.
Yeah. It doesn't use an OLED screen, it uses an LED screen. It has a lower resolution of the screens than the Oculus Quest, which is the standalone thing that Oculus made. Also, it runs at 80 Hz instead of 90 Hz. And it doesn't use the VR connector that was supposed to be standardized for the next generation VR things. That, you know, so instead of having 50 cables, you only have one.
Yeah, so it's shittier than the...
It's not shittier than the initial one, but it's shittier than the standalone mobile one.
Yeah, okay.
So it's fueled some rumors that this is not actually an Oculus product, that this is something that Lenovo made. Because it's Lenovo's Windows mixed reality device. The Asus has one, Acer has one, HP just announced a big one. I think I left some around here with the HP Reverb that can do 4K with 6 degrees of freedom, which is like a really, really important one. And I think that was Lenovo's attempt to create one. And they thought they could get more sales out of it by teaming up with Oculus and launching it as if it were made by Oculus. Because it's physically not produced by Oculus. It is made by Lenovo. It's a weird thing.
I am still very not impressed by VR in general. And what about that Intel video card?
Yeah, Intel is going to release a video card next year, and they've released a software suite that's actually usable now. It's the same kind of thing you have in your GeForce Experience, in your Radeon software. They released that as a product you can use. And they've released some images, possible renders of their video card. Thing is, one of them is actually just a slight touch-up of their SSD. Because they have a PCIe SSDs that are amazingly fast and cost more than most of my organs. And that's basically what they showed as one of the renders there. So it's a funny thing. But the important thing to get at this is that all their renders or all their prototypes, so their concepts, were for very small cards. So these things are going to be using HBM memory, I think. Because they're just too small to have any sort of power behind them if they're GDDR based. Because if you want to have a lot of memory, like usable memory for modern games, you're going to need to have a lot of memory chips. And GDDR takes a lot of space. HBM doesn't. HBM is so small you don't even need it to be on a separate thing other than the GPU itself. So it's getting close. It's going to be the end of the duopoly of Radeon and GeForce. Intel's going to come into the fray and it'll change things up. It'll be the Epic Game Store of video cards.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Maybe without reasons for people to hate it though.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see what happens with that one.
Oh, and speaking of video cards, NVIDIA has enabled real-time ray tracing for its GTX line. So for your video card, you can now run ray tracing. It'll run it horribly because you don't have dedicated cores for it, but you can now run it in the following games: Battlefield 5, Metro Exodus, Shadow of the Tomb Raider finally got it, like this week. Shadow of the Tomb Raider got it like 9 months after they announced it would get it, after they revealed it, I mean.
Do you think Battlefield Tractor will get it also?
I think so, hopefully. And very importantly, because somebody, former NVIDIA internationally, made a version of Quake 2 that runs ray tracing via Vulkan. NVIDIA said, you know what? We're going to make one as well. And they did. They made their own version of Quake 2 that runs RTX, and it runs their version of it with its technologies. One of the major differences you're probably going to notice if you're going to see the trailer of it is that the explosions no longer look like the ones in the olden Quake 2, which were just a polygon would appear, like in the form of a mushroom that glowed red. That was the explosion. No. In this version, it uses NVIDIA's flow system that actually simulates the most badass realistic smoke effect you could ever see, and it's in Quake 2. Like every other texture is still Quake 2, but that smoke just looks so realistic. It's incredible. It's an extremely strange experience because the polygons in the game, the geometry is 1997, 98 level of geometry. The
classic Quake.
But the lighting is 2019, and the particle effects are 2019. It's weird.
It's a remaster. That's how it is.
And the thing is, people don't like Quake 2. Quake 2 is seen as the worst of them.
Really?
Yeah, it's the one that nobody since forever. Quake 1 was the big innovator, the one that had the Tuluin mythos thing. You'd fight Hell Knights and stuff. Then came Quake 2, which was story-focused but not all that interesting. Then 3 gave up on the story. And then 4 came and continued the story of 2. Not a lot of people cared, and then that died.
I don't know, man. Quake 2 was big in multiplayer here.
Yeah,
so.
the multiplayer part was. The single-player one, not really that much.
I guess not, but whatever.
Let's see
I think we're about done for this.
Yeah, I think that'll be about ray tracing. Oh yeah, there's one more thing relating to ray tracing. Crytek, they haven't done anything tech-related, like anything big tech-related for a couple of years. But they have their game, the Hunt Showdown game. And I think the profit that they have made from that one allowed them to keep pushing the tech angle a bit more, because they just showcased a version of their engine that uses ray tracing on Radeon cards.
Okay.
It's agnostic. It doesn't use any particular technology developed by Radeon, by AMD or by NVIDIA. And it's seen in their demo as running real-time reflections with ray tracing on an RX 56 Vega, which is not even the top-end video card from Radeon, from AMD. So it's a promising future for ray tracing here.
That is. Especially if it's like third party, as it were.
Yeah, that's very important because, as you may have known, the World of Darkness game that's coming out, Vampire, will use real-time reflections. It will use ray tracing. It's going to be awesome.
Will there be that many rays if it's darkness?
Oh, the neon. There's going to be neon glow everywhere. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be all sorts of shadows. Oh, shadows, very important. You need to have proper light propagation for shadows, because it's the World of Darkness.
In blood, though.
Yeah. Thing is, you're not going to have a reflection because you're a vampire. So
or will you? I don't know.
That's actually one of the only games where not having a reflection would be explained. Because in most games, you don't have a reflection. I kept making the joke that in Bioshock 2, you played a vampire. You have a reflection at the beginning of the game, before your character gets killed and goes to sleep for a couple of years and then wakes up. And then you don't have a reflection anymore because you're a vampire. And you die when you hit sunlight. When you go to the surface, you die. Vampire.
That explains it.
Big Daddy Delta vampire. Oh yeah, and Oddworld Soulstorm, which is the the reboot, the remaster of Abe's Exodus, the second of the Outer games. It got a trailer, a cinematic trailer. This one does not have any songs on the background like the release trailer for the remaster of the first one. It had a really weird song with "I was made to love you," on the background, which just was so weird. And I just made a recut of that trailer with "Get Freaky" because you know that song, right? "Get Freaky" with Abe. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't do that since the first place, because that's the song that people identify with this series.
Maybe they didn't have the rights license for it anymore.
Probably, but it's not like it'll be hard to get because it's made by a band from Germany that hasn't been relevant for 20 years, so it wouldn't be hard to get. They'd probably say, "Hey, you want our song? Oh my God, $5? Okay, dude, for $5, we'll sing it live for you. We'll visit people. We'll knock on people's doors whenever they play the trailer and just sing it for them live."
Remix.
Yeah. Well, I guess that would be it.
Yep.
So now that you have Ryzen, will you be having something new on your channel?
Yes, but not necessarily. I mean, it's gonna be new. It's not necessarily gonna be very Ryzen intensive. I did actually post an Apex video a while back. This week? Question mark, depending on when this goes out.
Probably June.
Yes, this week I have either already released or will release a first impressions video about workers and resources.
Ooh.
Soviet Republic, which is a Soviet-themed city builder tycoon sort of game. And it's gonna be a first impression video because it just released into early access like a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. And obviously the game is still needs some work here and there, but there's a lot of stuff you can do in it already. So I'm just gonna do a quick first impression video of the game, and then I'll revisit it. I'll check it out like a couple of months later in this year, and see what's changed and whatnot. But that looks great.
As a professional Romanian, how does it stack up to your experience of having lived in Romania?
Man, it does the theme very, very well. It does the theme quite right. So much so that I actually plan to start to try to rebuild like a piece of the town I lived in. Because it will kind of look like that. Like especially where I lived in one such communist-built flat building for 27 years before I moved. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna see if I can actually get that on video. But if I'm not gonna get that for this video, I'll do it for the further on. But yeah, that's what's gonna be on my channel this week, or already is. Again, question mark.
Could be.
And most likely, I think I'm gonna release a nonsense cast as well, because I have one in the can about the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and the season 2 is about to start in April. So I should release that as well. But yeah, that's from me. From you, you should have that Apex
probably
video.
That Apex video will be out, and I was thinking about maybe making a video about like a more in-depth one about Stadia, possibly, and how it the whole thing with OnLive, how it started, and because these are things we're talking about like in 2009 when I was working at Arena TV.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing. It's a legacy thing. So
probably I remember about the OnLive. Yeah. I think that might not be a very bad idea, because it would help to give some context to why I am skeptical about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that would be it. We've been talking for a little over an hour and 20 minutes, so I'm gonna dive back into the world. Well, I would dive back into the world of darkness, but I disabled the controls on the camera that makes me black and white, so I'm just gonna do this instead. Good night, everybody. Stay safe in the shadows, because the darkness watches.
I'm still really bright though. See you next time.